Yes, sir.
Sir.
Okay, nice. So where are we, guys? What are we discussing in the last class? We are again looking into some of the features of the CSS3. We have seen the multi-column layout, and we have seen the keyframes and the transitions also we have seen, and a bit of features of your transformations, skew and translate. Okay, so hope everyone is clear up to there. The pending topics of your CSS3 are, we need to talk about the gradients and grid layout, flex layouts, and the media queries. Okay, today I will talk about the gradients and the grid layout. Tomorrow I'll talk about the flex layout and following with the media queries. Okay, so before going to there, close this. Oh, it is already created. Okay, I make it as. Okay, so the very first thing is, whenever you say something called as gradients, D-I-E-N-T-S. Okay, so what do you mean by gradients? It's very simple. Anytime we would like to add multiple colors as a background to any of the containers, we simply go with the gradients concept. Okay, anytime we would like to add multiple colors, combining the multiple colors and adding as a background to one of the container, we simply go with the gradients. Under these gradients, there are two types of gradients here. One is linear gradient and one is radial gradient. The name itself specifies linear in the sense straight wise, column wise, diagonal wise, we go with the linear. Radial is circular wise. If at all you want to add the multicolors in a circular format, we go with the radial. So first of all, let us go with what actually the linear gradient is, following with the radial gradient. Okay, so let me say a container. Okay, so when I open this guy in the browser, this is how it is coming. We know that anytime we are going to add any background, so we simply say background color, say something called as some red color. This is how the container gets into red color. Instead of, okay, another thing is, let me say font hyphen size 30 pixels, text align center, font hyphen weight bolder. Okay, something called hello everyone. Okay, some message. I mean, the foreground we have a content, background we have the background color. This is how you can add a single color on the top. If at all you want to add image as a background, what we used to do, we used to say something called as background hyphen image, and we go with something called as URL, and we are going to specify the path of the image. Is everyone clear up to this?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now what we are saying is, my requirement is not to add an image, but I would like to add multiple colors as a background to the container. So anytime you want to add multiple colors as a background, we are going to take the CSS property background hyphen image. Okay, we are going to take the property as background hyphen image only. Under that, I'm going to specify linear hyphen gradient as a property. Under this, we can actually specify what are the colors you want to go. Say something called as, I say some green, comma, something called as blue. Now, if you save this guy, come back here and reload the page. Do you see the multiple colors are coming as a background to the container? Yes, it is. Okay, so the very first question what you will be getting is, Boss, we are adding colors, multiple colors as a background. Why the reason we are going for background hyphen image property? The reason is whenever we are applying the linear gradient, dynamically an image gets created based on the properties what actually we are giving. Dynamically an image gets created based on the properties, I mean based on the colors, whatever it is, based on the values what you give, a dynamic image will be created and that image will be added as a background image. This is how it is coming. Okay, so we can specify any of the colors. By default, it is going to take a direction. So you can actually even provide a direction also. So by default, it is going to be top to bottom. This is the default direction what it is going to take. Now, if you reload the page, see here. Oh, sorry, it is to bottom. Okay, so now if you reload the page, see here by default, this is how the direction is going. So you're going to say that from where? I mean, anyway, it starts from top. So to bottom, it is going to take by default. Now, if you say to right, okay, so now if you come back and reload the page, see the direction is going to be taken. So the first parameter, you can even specify, it's an optional actually, but you can even specify the direction to which the colors need to be added. And not only the values, I mean, you can say to right, to bottom, to left, etc. and all. On the top, you can even specify, let me say to right bottom. Okay, so diagonally it will be taking, see here. So diagonally it is taking like this. So you can even specify diagonal value also like this. I mean, whatever the direction you specify. Or you can even specify an angle value to here. So instead of specifying the direction, you say something called as 120 degrees. Okay, save this guy, come back and reload the page. 120 degrees, this is how it is going. Now I say 200 degrees. Save this guy, come back and reload the page. This is how it is. So either you can specify the direction, color direction, or you can even specify the angle value also, what degree you would like to implement. Any questions? In the same way, not only these guys, say something called as some yellow. You can even, you can specify any number of colors like this. Okay, so now if you see green, blue, and yellow, so all these colors are getting applied here. Yeah, someone asked me a question.
Sir, how to apply bottom to
top? Sorry, could you repeat again?
Sir, how to apply gradient from bottom to top?
I shown you, right? Say something called, instead of this guy. Now, when I say to bottom, this is where it is going to start. I mean, from the top to bottom, it is happening. Now, if you say to top, now if you come back, reload the page, this is how it is.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Any more questions, guys? Understood, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Like this, you can specify any number of colors, guys. Say, for example, to the right, you can specify yellow, say something called as some pink, say some red. I mean, any number of colors you go, you can simply go like this. I mean, any number of colors can be compared. I mean, can be combined, and you could able to add the background color for this. And whenever you are adding the color, again, you know that, right? By default, whenever you're going to add the colors, either we can go with the hash code value or the direct color name or the RGB value. And not only RGB, there is something called as RGBA. Hope I already discussed about the RGBA, guys, here.
Yes, sir.
Sir.
Yeah, so we already discussed, right? RGBA is red, green, blue with an opacity. So you can even specify that. Like instead of this guy, you say RGBA, say some 23, 45, and 67, comma 0.3. Like this, you can even specify this. Okay, reload the page. That guy will be applied. Okay, and one more thing what we have is we can even repeat the linear gradient. So right now, one time by default, the linear gradient is getting applied single time. Now, if you say background hyphen image, so this is a good interview question, guys. People will ask you, when you are adding the linear gradient, you are adding the colors. Why the reason you're putting background hyphen image instead of background hyphen color? The answer is dynamically it is creating an image. Okay, browser dynamically creates an image based on the values what you have given. That is the reason that image will be dynamically added to the particular element. Okay, that's a very tricky question you might get in your interviews. Okay, so when I say background hyphen image, you can say something called as repeating hyphen linear gradient. So what do you mean by this repeating? Let's have a look. I say something called as red, say some pink. You can even specify how much of color it has to get repeated. I mean, either you want to take 10%, 20%, 30%, whatever it is. Say something called as green as a 25%, something like this. Now, once you come back, okay, first of all, let us go with linear hyphen gradient, something like this. Now, if you reload the page, this is how it is coming. The green guy is taking too much of space. Now, when I say repeating hyphen linear gradient, so what do you mean by this guy? This is how it is. Okay, you could able to repeat the same combination for multiple number of times. And again, you want to specify the direction, something called as to right bottom, comma, something like this. Now you can see like this. Okay, linear hyphen gradient is only for one time apply. If you say repeat hyphen linear gradient, it is getting repeated. The multiple colors will be repeated for multiple times for the same container. Okay, Shreyas, you asked the question. I mean, will occupy the equal proportion and can we control it? Yes, right? Now, as I said you, it's a very valid question. What Shreyas is asking is like the proportion of the color, what actually we have. Do we have a control on it? Yes, we are actually specifying the percentage. You can even do that. Any questions on this, guys? Linear gradient concept. That's it. I mean, we don't have anything else. So linear gradient is adding multiple colors. Under that, there is other thing is repeating the linear gradient. And under the linear gradient, you can actually specify the angles or the direction. By default, it will be top to bottom, etc. So any questions on this? Is it clear? Yes or no?
Yes, sir. Clear.
Yes. Nice. Let us take the same guy and talk about something called a circular gradient. The name itself specifies. Okay, so let us say circular gradients. Okay, I'm removing this guy, the background image property. Okay, open this guy within the browser. Okay, and this is how it is. Now on the top, if at all you want to apply the circular gradient, we can go with something called as background hyphen image, the same CSS property. Now you go for something called as radial gradient. Earlier it was a linear gradient, now it is radial gradient. Now you say red, say some green, say some blue. Okay, 3 colors I gave. Now if you save this guy, reload the page. Come on, why it's not getting applied? Radial gradient, background hyphen image.
Comma.
Oh, comma is missing. Okay, so now if you come back and reload the page, this is how it is. See, the name itself specifies it's in the form of a circular. That's it. And it is not by default circular. If at all you want to go, you can even specify the shape also here. Say something called circular. Oh, circular, it is circle, I guess.
Circle.
Okay, so if you define it as a circle, exact circle will be created. Otherwise, by default, it will be falling under ellipsis. And on the top, you can even control the percentages, like the proportions, as we have done in the radial linear gradient. So you can specify red as so and so percentage, and blue as something called as some 25%. Remaining all it will be taken care. So you can even control the proportion of the value also. Okay. And for the shape, as I said, you can specify the circle, ellipsis, whatnot. Those all can be added. In the same way as like linear, we do even have an option of repeating the radial gradient. Okay, I say something called repating, repeating hyphen radial gradient. Repeating radial gradient. Save this guy. Come back here and reload the page. This is how the according to the shape what we have given, it is going to keep on repeating multiple times. Am I clear? So that's it, guys. This is what the difference between the radial and linear gradients. Both are used to add multiple colors as a background, both in a different way. Linear is in an angle or a straight line, whereas radial comes with a circular or ellipsis. Any questions on this, guys?
No,
So
sir.
here, in order to keep the multiple colors as a background for the containers, we used to go with an image that we used to create a static image, and then we used to convert that guy. I mean, we used to take that image as a background and we used to repeat it, or we need to stretch it. That is how we used to solve the uh, multiple colors as a background. But now the problem over there is, if the if the background image color has to be changed, we need to again create an image with multiple colors, use that image as a background. But the advantage what you have in your linear or radial gradient is dynamically the images can be created according to the color what we wanted. So that is one of the better advantage we got from your CSS3. Any questions up to this, guys?
No, sir.
Sir,
Go ahead, please.
can we create animations on this circle that comes once after once?
This is just a background image, Prashant. That is the reason we can't go with the animations. So animation in the sense, maybe you wanted something called circle, keep on rotating, something like this, right?
Yes.
So if you really want to do that, what actually you can do is you can actually use some JavaScript here. I mean, when I say background image, by default, using your CSS3, we cannot do that. But using your JavaScript, if you really see, I want to put some animation that circle is keep on rotating and it is changing its color, dynamically, can we add the CSS property to this guy? We can do that, right? Using JavaScript. Yes or no, Prashant?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes, right? Now, dynamically, you keep increasing this value or decreasing this value through JavaScript. So in that way, you yourself can, I mean, we can customize this guy, but there is nothing like predefined one.
Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Next. The next thing what actually we have is another important feature, which we have, which we call it as grid layout. Okay, one of the very important concept. If we get to know how do we use this grid layout, lot of things. I mean, to be honestly speaking, you don't need to go with the floating properties or positioning of the elements also. I mean, still positioning you might go, but floating is not actually needed if you have an idea of the grid layouts. Okay, so let us see what actually this grid layout is. CSS3 grid layout.html. Assume I would like to go with something. Let me go with it. Assume I would like you guys to create a container, something like this. Okay. Under this, I would like to create a header like this. Under this, I would like to have some container, something like this. I want to create something like this type of look and feel. I mean, the layout, guys. Can you tell me like how do you go this? I mean, what type of CSS properties you will use? Come on, just
Grid.
Header, footer,
grid we haven't discussed. Forget about the grid. Other than grid, yeah,
div type, span type.
Float, sir.
no span type, right? If you see every other guy is having the width and height, so it is not the span. Obviously, we go with the div tags. The header is a div guy, footer is a div guy. You see this left guy and right guy. Remember, we used to go with the float left property. By using the float property, we used to make the guys. If you're not talking, please going to mute. So we used to go with the float property. Remember when we are talking about the semantic tags, like the HTML5 semantic tags, that time also we created the same type of header, footer, etc., SI tags, etc. and all. Using the float property, we used to make the elements side to each other, etc. and all. But that's what I mean. You know, the limitations what you have with your float is the height property will be missing. At the same time, once you use this float property, you other elements start following the previous elements. Again, you need to control them using the clear both property, etc. and all. So now from now CSS3, it is recommended to not to go with the float property. If at all you want to make multiple elements to be inside a single container, you can simply go with the grid type of layouts. So how do you create a grid type of layout? Let us have a look on that. Now I say some div, div class equal to say some main container. Under that, I go with another div, something called as class is equal to g-item. Okay, some class I'm giving. I say item1, item2, 3, and 4. Main container. This is item 1 and 2 and 3. Okay. We can increase them. 4 following with 5, 6, and 7. Let us say something called as 8 items I have added. Okay. Let me define the CSS here. I say some style. Say something called a g-item. The item is having something called some border, 1 pixel solid. Okay, background green. Okay. Say something called as text line center. Okay, that's it for the items. And I say dot main hyphen container, something called as background color of something called as blue. Padding of 20 pixels, something like this I have given. Come back here and let us see how it is getting rendered. Open in the default browser. This is how it is coming, guys. Okay. Okay, both I have given the blue color. Okay, background color green I have given.
Sir, Z item takes a
Z
dot.
item
I
dot
think.
with.
Oh, G is missing, right? Okay. So now if you come back and reload the page, this is how the green items are coming. That is how the blue guy is coming. Blue guy is the parent and these items are coming in the form of green color. This is how it is. Okay. Now if you say for the main container, I simply say display grid. Okay, I'm not doing anything. I'm simply saying that display grid here. That's it. Now, if you come back here and reload the page, I said that display grid. Main container, I made it. Why these items are not coming? It has to come, right? Oh, you need to even specify the columns also, right? Okay. Display grid and grid complete columns. Say for example, auto. Okay. So if you see here, I simply said that this is a grid system. Okay. And I specify, I mean, how do you say a container is holding some grid items? You just need to say something called as display grid. Any container which is having the CSS property, either it is display grid or inline-grid. Okay. Any container who is having the CSS property as grid or inline-grid automatically becomes a grid container. Okay, either you can say grid or inline grid, both are going to be the same. It will automatically become as a grid container. Okay, on the top, what is the use of making a container as a grid container? So that like whatever the children it is having, it will be treated as grid items, and all of them you can specify either it has to be in the form of column wise or row wise, whatever it is. So this is what the grid template columns I'm specifying. Now when I say auto and auto means that by default it is dividing into 4 columns. First guy, second guy, third guy. Now instead of this, I say something called as 200 pixel. Now, if you save this guy and reload the page, see here, this guy is taking the second column is taking 200 pixel and remaining all are automatically getting adjusted. Now I say these guy 10 pixel. Here you are specifying the total number of columns. There are 4 columns, or else if I make it something called as 3 columns, the first column need to have the 100 pixel, third column need to have the 200 pixel, fourth column automatically you get adjusted. Now if you come back and reload the page, see all the items got adjusted accordingly here. Yes, it is. Okay, see here item 1 is 200 pixel, sorry, the 100 pixel, item 2 is 200 pixel, whereas the item 3 is automatically getting adjusted. So in general, if at all you have to create such type of look and feel, we used to go with the floating property, either making the float left or right and all. But here, if at all you want to make in the form of a grid system, you simply go with this. And remember, whenever I was talking about the table tag, remember we said that tables are not mostly recommended to use in the web page. The reason is they decrease the performance of the page, as the system need to maintain the parent and child relationship over there. But here at that time, what we have suggested, recommended to go with the div tags, and that too, when we are using the div tags, we are using the float property and making the elements to render as like a row format. But there, as we use the float, instead of doing this, now can I create any number of rows or columns based on the grid system here? Yes, very simple, isn't it? So this is how you can actually specify the we can actually render the elements in the form of a grid format here. So on the top, so the 2 properties are, first of all, we have something called as display grid. And the second thing is display grid template columns, which tells you how many columns you have and what is the width of each and every column. So if you specify auto, automatically it gets adjusted, or else you can even specify how many pixels or how many per much percentage you want. You can even do that. Now, the other properties what actually we have is you can even specify the gaps between the grids. So you can specify grid hyphen column hyphen gap, where you can say something called as 20 pixel. Now, if you save this guy and reload the page, so you see the gaps between the grid will be by default followed with 20 pixel. On the top, if you want to go with grid hyphen row hyphen gap, say something called as 30 pixel. You can even specify the gaps between the rows by using the grid hyphen row gap. Or there is a other predefined property which is a shortcut of this. You can simply say grid hyphen gap, using which you say 50 pixel and 60 pixel, which is indirectly equal to column gap and row gap. If you want to only go with the column, or only want to go with the row, you can make use. If you want to apply both, then you can use the shortcut something called as grid hyphen gap, using which you can specify both for the row wise and the column wise. Okay. On the top, you can even specify the lines, the grid lines here. Okay. So the first thing what we have is grid hyphen column hyphen but this is for the items, right? Okay, one second. Grid gap, this is for the container, fine. But now let me make this, okay, not 100 pixel, let me make it as auto. No, 100 pixel. How do I show the line part here? So there is like, I mean, right now, if you see all the cells are occupying the same width and height, right? You can even do the, what do you say, merging multiple cells to form a single cell. I mean, remember we have row span and call span properties, right? In the same way, you can even do in grid format. But how do I show this example here? Okay, let me say, for this guy, let me comment out. I say grid hyphen template hyphen columns, something called as auto, and auto. Okay, 3 columns are getting formed with the auto format. Now my requirement is I want to make this item 1 to occupy 2 cells. So how do I say that? This is the item, grid item 1, I will say. Item 1. Okay, item 1, I say grid hyphen column hyphen start, something called as 1, and as something called as 2. Now if you save this guy and reload the page, item 1 has to start with grid column start 1, grid column end 2. Yes, right? Then why the reason it's not working? Grid column start 1, have I missing anything? This is item 1. This is the cell what I give. Fine, right? Grid column start and end 3. Oh, yeah. But if you see why it is taking. Yeah. Now, if you see here, what do you mean by this? Okay, if I say something called as 4, now if you reload the page, this is how it is occupying the complete cells here. See, merging multiple cells and forming a single cell. Now, when I say 3 here, so what do you mean by this? It is starting at 1. Before 2 is still here. before 3 is still here. So here you are saying that where I need to start and where I need to end for a particular cell. Okay, so this is how you could able to merge multiple cells to form a single cell. So grid column hyphen start and grid column column hyphen end are the CSS properties using which you could able to merge multiple cells to form a single cell. In the same way, for this guy, you can even specify grid row hyphen end and grid row hyphen start. Now I say start at 1 and at something called as 3. Now if you come back and reload the page, this is how you can even merge multiple rows or multiple columns to form a single cell here. Any confusion? Are you guys clear? Understanding?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this just needs a practice, guys, and you need to remember these CSS properties. So these are the properties. I mean, these are the only properties what we wanted to get experience with this guy. I mean, in order to implement the things in the grid system, the first thing is display grid. Till now, whatever the display property we have used, we have only used something called as display inline, display block, display inline block, display none, etc. The new other properties what are being used from your CSS3 is display grid and display flex. Flex things I'm pending with that, but display grid in the sense it is indirectly table type of format without having any dependency of the table tags, as it is decreasing the performance of the page. Now, if at all I ask you guys to create such type of page, can you guys do it now without any floating property and all?
Yes.
Everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. This is what the advantage so this is what the advantage we have, guys. Let us try an assignment with this, guys. So I want the same assignment. Try with only the grid, even the header, the footer, keep in the grid itself. Okay. This main guy, let us say, for example, this red guy. Okay. This red container is the grid container. Under that, this is one of the grid item. This is second grid item, third grid item, something like this. Now you need to specify how the header need to occupy the complete cells. I mean, it has to merge multiple cells. Right now, if you clearly see, there are 2 row formats here. 2 here, 1 and 2, because there are 2 is the maximum. Under that, another grid container need to be there, which is having 3. Under that, first guy need to occupy the 2 cells. So like this, you have to do. So try for that. If you are not getting it, I will show it to you guys. Any questions up to this?
No.
Sir,
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Sir, this grid system, grid structure is responsive or not?
It is responsive, right? So that is what the other advantage we have, ma'am. Whenever you minimize this guy, see here, whatever the dimensions you go, it will automatically get adjusted to the device dimensions. This is what another advantage we have. When you go with the tables, it is not responsive. Am I clear, Redmi? Sorry, ma'am. Your good name?
Yes, sir. I am Rashmi.
Yeah, Rashmi. So this is what it is. So it is responsive. So one more thing, guys. Whenever you say responsive, in the sense making the web page to be, to get rendered according to the device what it is getting rendered, we call it as a responsive design. Responsive page. Okay. So we actually achieve the responsiveness using something called as media queries, which is our next topic. So once you talk about the media queries, then you will understand more better how do you implement the responsive. But here, if you see, without even implementing the media queries, it is by default responsive. Okay. Am I clear here, everyone?
sir,
Now, if
what
you
is mean by grid area?
grid area is the blue guy, whatever you have, that is what we call it as a grid area. The complete parent container, which is actually occupying the complete content, we call it as a grid area. Am I clear? Grid area is one of the CSS property using which at a time you can specify where actually it is getting started, where actually the column is ending, where actually you are, what do you say, where the column is starting, where the column is ending, where the row is starting, where the row is ending. So instead of, if you see here, we have used the 4 properties here: grid, column start, column end, and row start. Instead of that, you can give a shortcut, something called as grid-area, specify the first property, row start, column start, row end, column end. 4 at a time, you can actually specify that. That is what your grid area is. Am I clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, so this is about the grid system, guys. And the next feature, what actually we have is the flex layouts. As you have just discussed the grid layouts, we might, you might get confused if I actually start the flex layouts, because you might feel a lot of similarities between the grid and the flex layouts. So that is the reason I will pause the flex layouts. We'll talk about the media queries. And once I'm done with the media queries, by maybe tomorrow, I'll be starting about the flex layouts, etc. and all. Okay. So the very next thing, what actually we are going to look is, and one more very, very important topic we have in your CSS3 is media queries. Okay. So what do you mean by media queries? Media queries is one of the predefined feature being supported in your CSS3, using which we could able to make the CSS properties to get rendered according to the device what it is getting rendered on. Okay. So being a UI developer, the very first challenge what you actually have is the responsiveness, guys. So what do you mean by responsiveness? Making the application to work accordingly without breaking any look and feel. According, whatever the device it is getting rendered, it has to get rendered without breaking the UI changes here. So that is what we call it as a responsiveness. So the challenging part what you have for the UI developer is we don't have the same space in all the devices. Earlier days, when the developer develops a web page, maximum 2 to 3 devices, like a desktop or a laptop or a projector, that's it. But nowadays that is not the case. Once you design a web page and develop the web page, user might go into the mobile, they may go with a tablet, they may go with a projector, they may go with a TV, they may go with a laptop or small screens. Lot of different screens has come. Now the challenging part what we have for the developer is we have to make sure that the look and feel gets rendered according to the particular device. Whatever the device you give, that look and feel has to get adjusted. Example, let us go with something called Amazon. Now, when I'm opening my Amazon page, this is how it is. Now, when I go with Control Shift M, oh, okay. Now, when I minimize these guys, now once you see here, when I'm minimizing these guys, you tell me, is it is responsiveness? Is it is getting adjusted according to the device?
No, sir.
No. So this is not a responsive.
No.
The reason Flipkart and Amazon guys don't provide the responsiveness is they openly said that we are not providing the responsiveness to the web page. If you really want to go with a mobile version, there is a dedicated app given, you can go with that. But let me go with something called as getbootstrap.com. Okay, this is how you have the tabs, etc. and all. When I'm minimizing this window, you tell me, is it responsiveness or not? Is it is getting rendered according to the device?
Yeah, sir.
Yes, it is. So these type of pages, we call it as a responsiveness web pages. Now, if you see, we have a menu bar, something like this. When it is a bigger screen, it is coming in the form of a navigation bar. The menu bar with a tab type of structure. But once you go into the smaller window, it is automatically getting adjusted with something like this. So this is what we call it as a responsiveness. So being a developer, we need to make sure the web page gets adjusted accordingly. It should not be something like when it is mobile, go for a different getbootstrapmobile.com or getbootstrapdesktop.com. We should not create multiple web pages, but the same web page should have the auto intelligence in order to render the page accordingly. Okay. So how do we achieve this guy? So how do we achieve that? So how, if you see here, he's automatically getting adjusted. So how do we achieve this? So the first advantage what we have here in order to achieve the responsiveness is, the advantage is functionality is not going to be changed. When I click on docs, what is going to happen? In your desktop version, this is what it is happening. When you go to the mobile version, click on the docs here, the same look and feel is happening. Implies the functionality never changes, doesn't matter what device you go. The only thing what changes is the look and feel changes. Implies only CSS need to be changed accordingly based on the value what you give. Only the CSS look and feel is going to be changed according to the device what you are going to render. So we need to handle only the CSS look and feel according to the device, which implies we are doing the responsiveness web pages. So when you go into the interview, people will ask you that, boss, do you ever have a experience with developing the responsiveness? So what do you mean by that? They don't ask you directly that, have you developed in mobile or something like that. They directly ask you that, do you have an experience of responsiveness? In the sense, indirectly, have you ever got a chance to work with same web page getting rendered different way cross devices? Okay. So in order to implement these features, like making the look and feel according to the device, we have the concept being supported, something called as media queries. So before implementing, how do we do this media queries? Let me create a very simple example where the look and feel is not working good when it is a bigger device, but when it is the look and feel is not getting adjusted automatically when it is smaller device. And how do we make it adjusted when it is a smaller device? Let's see that. Okay, I say it as how do we do that? We call that guy as okay, let me say a simple div, say some class equal to header. No, in fact, okay. You can even use the grid system also, guys, but I want to show you like how do I solve it, because if you use the grid system, some features automatically it will handle, but I want to show you a way where it is not automatically handling and we are doing that. Okay, I say some class equal to main container. Okay, and let me say some div class equal to footer. Okay, so the best way to put this guy is style footer main container. Okay, say some border 1 pixel solid. I say position absolute, left of 5 pixel and right of 5 pixel. Text line center. Okay, this is how it is. Okay, this is how it is. I have created a pair. I have created some like a header tag following with the container, following with the footer. Now, my requirement is, let us see how it is getting rendered in a responsive web page. Now, whenever I'm actually minimizing this guy, this is how it is. Okay, and one more thing, guys. If at all you want to see the responsiveness within your browser, you can actually inspect this guy. The debugger tool is helping you to show you, or you can actually switch the look and feel into the, you can actually switch the views here. So if you see after the arrow pointer, there is actually a toggle device toolbar. Now, once you click on that guy, it automatically shows. Once you inspect this, go for the device toolbar. This is how it is going to show you. What if you want to go with a mobile, or you can even specify what actually the device is. Okay, based on the plugin, by default, there is a Moto G, Galaxy, iPhone Pro, etc. and all. Like when I go with the Galaxy Fold, this is how it is getting rendered. So you don't need to specify the width and height, or else if you know the inches, the main thing what you need to understand is the inches, the device dimension. Like everyone, right? When they say that, boss, this web page has to get rendered in 4-inch device or 5-inch device or 6-inch device. So when the requirement is there for you, they will be telling you what is the inch of the device for which you need to support it. And you need to convert that inch into pixels. And then you say something called, for example, here you say responsive. On the top, I say 450 pixels. See here, when I say 450 by 484, this is how it is looking. Now, if you see here, our app is working super good. Okay. And this is the concept what we do in your Chrome, but I really like to go with the Firefox. In Firefox, there is a different way of doing this. I mean, it is a bit more friendly, what I feel comfortable, but it's up to you, whatever the thing you go for. So if I go with the Firefox, when I open this guy here, there is something called as Control-Shift-M. Once you press Control-Shift-M, this is how it is going to be shown. I mean, in the Chrome, you need to open the debugging tool. The debugging tool has to be, once you close the debugging tool, that look and feel is gone. But whereas in case of your Firefox, without even the debugging tool, Control-Shift-M is the shortcut. You can even do this. Okay. So here, now when I say that device, assume like 450 by 5000 or something called as some 1000. So this is how you can actually see how your look and feel is changing. Okay, I say something called as 450, and this is something called as 300. So if it is mobile, you just need to specify the dimensions, and you can even change the orientation also. Either you want to go with the landscape or portrait. So how is it is in landscape and how is in portrait? I mean, you actually change the device orientation, right? You keep it vertical, you keep it horizontal. So that we call it as landscape or portrait. So this is how the look and feel is happening. Now you tell me, our web application, is it supporting whatever the application we have created, the media queries.html? You tell me whether it is responsiveness or not.
Yes.
Yes, it is. We have added the header following with the container, following with the footer, and we haven't added anything. It is automatically getting. The very first thing what you need to understand being a web developer or a responsiveness developer is you should not see a scroll bar vertically. Horizontally, you are always fine. Sorry. Horizontally, you should not see the scroll bar. Having a scroll bar vertically is always fine. So you guys, when you're using a web application in a mobile, are you guys okay to scroll up and down? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes. But when the web page forces you to scroll the left and right, that is where you feel uncomfortable, isn't it? So you should not have the scroll bar horizontally, but you should have the scroll bar having a scroll bar vertically is always fine. Now, I need to, if you see here, our web page, whatever we have created, the advantage is we don't see the scroll bar at all. Okay, super fine, because the content has not come such a way. Let me create a simple content here. Say some class equal to MSG bar. Some message bar I would like to create. Okay, message bar. I'm going to say some border, say some 2 pixel solid. I say some border. Let us say some width of 3, say something called as 420 pixel. Okay, I say the position as absolute, or else, yeah, absolute. I say top is going to be, say, some 50 pixel. Okay, this is how I have created a message bar. Under that, hey, welcome to our page. Okay, some message bar I have created. Now, if you reload this page, this is how it is coming in your bigger device. Let me put some padding of 20 pixel. Background color, something called as yellow. Reload this page. Now, when I go with this Control Shift M, okay, go Control Shift M, reload the page. This is how it is coming. Super fine. Now, when I want to go with the mobile device, how do I go with Control Shift M? Assume like my mobile width is 350 pixel. Okay, 350 by something called as 600. This is what my mobile device is. Now you guys tell me, is my look and feel is getting broken? Now if you see, am I getting a scroll bar horizontally? Is it is okay to get a scroll bar horizontally? Yes or no?
No.
No, sir. No.
Not at all. So what we need to do, we need to make sure that the content has to get rendered. I mean, the reason why we got is you are specifying the width of 420, which will not be having the same space when you go with the cross devices. Now, how do I control this? Now, my expectation is, okay, boss, let us make it as 320 pixels. Now, if you come back and reload the page. So, okay, 320 is this guy. Let me make it as a 280 pixel. Come back here and reload the page. This is how it is. 1 second, guys. Okay, this is how it is. Now, when I am reloading this page, I mean, when it is width 280, this is how it is. Okay, sorry. When it is mobile, wow, super coming super good. Now, when I go to the bigger device, I have the space, but still I'm decreasing the width. So this is not valid. Now, what I want to do is, when it is smaller device, I want to make the width as 280 pixel, but when it is a bigger device, it has to come back to its 450 or whatever it is. So how you're going to achieve this? We want to give the two set of CSS properties. We want the browser to pick up the corresponding CSS properties according to the device dimensions. That is where we will be going with the media queries concept. So media queries are the CSS3 proper features using which you could able to achieve the concept of adding different set of CSS properties for the different device dimensions, and corresponding CSS will be applied to the container based on the dimensions what you give. So how you're going to define a media query? Okay, before going with how do we define, are you guys clear with up to till now whatever the discussion we have done?
Yes, sir.
Everyone, no more questions?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Very good, nice.
Sir,
Yes, please.
sir, when we give a width or a height, auto, what it means?
Auto in the sense automatically you get adjusted with what is the container width you have. Now you say
Only-
auto width or auto height. Based on the parent container, you have to get automatically adjusted. That is what it means.
It's not comes under the responsiveness.
It comes under the response. When you say, remember, like we have something called as margin property. When you say auto, automatically it is getting adjusted. But now my requirement is maybe the width is 280 pixel when it is smaller. When it is bigger, it has to be 400. How do we handle with auto? Not every time auto will work, right?
Okay.
Okay. So if you want to have a specific dimension, when it is a specific device, that is where you have to implement the media queries. Am I clear?
But if we put auto for the PCs, it will work?
Yes,
Not for the mobile or tab?
No, even for the mobile also it will work. Now, when I say, for example, okay, this message bar is there, right? Let us remove this guy here. I say margin of 20 pixel and auto. Now, if you come back and reload the page, is it not automatically coming to the center? Now, I closed it 1 second. Firefox. Okay, now when I go with mobile device, is it not automatically coming to the center? See, so whatever the device you go, automatically, is it not getting adjusted to the device? Automatically the left and width margins are getting set, right?
Yes, sir.
But what if my requirement is I need to change this guy? Not every time I would like to go with a center, right? Not every time it has to automatically get adjusted. My requirement is when it is bigger device, it has to be 450 pixel only. When it is smaller device, it has to be 280. Now I cannot do the same with the auto property, right?
Yes, sir.
Am I clear, Sharma? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Now, how do we achieve this? As I said we are going to implement the media queries on this. Now, what I say is, okay, make it as 450 pixel by default. Now, once you come over here, reload the page. This is how it is in the bigger device. When I go to the smaller device, this is how it is broken. Okay, now what I say is, I would like to define a media query @media. We already seen one of the property in CSS. What was that?
Keyframes.
Exactly. So yesterday we have already saw the concept of @keyframe. How do you define a keyframe? With percentages and to and from, which is like stepwise putting the animations and applying the animation to the elements. But now we are going to see something called as @media property. And you are going to define here, you are not going to define the, we are not going to put any name here, but here we are going to put the dimensions. Okay, so how you're going to put the dimensions? Let's have a look on this. Close others. Don't save. Okay, sorry guys. So @media, right? So before giving the @media, 4 properties you need to be very much clear about, and simple properties, which is MIN, minimum width, minimum height, maximum width, maximum height. These are the 4 CSS properties using which you can specify the device dimensions. Okay, mostly we don't go with the height property. As I already said you, every time user is always fine scrolling up and down, but the problem only comes with the width here. So that is the reason most of the time we only go with the minimum width only. But if at all you have a requirement of height also, you can make use of the minimum height or maximum height. Okay, so how you're going to apply here? You say @media max, or I say minimum width. Okay, assume I say something called as 350 pixel. Whenever the minimum width of this device is so and so, I say width equal to 280 pixel. Let us see how actually it is getting rendered. Okay, no, oh, sorry. For the message bar, right? I say dot message bar. Okay, something like this. Now, if you come back and reload the page, not the Chrome guy, go to the Firefox. Now, if you reload the page, this is how it is. When I'm going to the bigger device, reload the page. This is the problem. Why so? I set the maximum width, right? The maximum width is 350. Now, if you come back and reload the page, by default, this is how it is coming. Okay. When I go to the smaller device, is it not automatically getting adjusted, boss?
Yes.
Yes, right. That's it. This is how simple we implement the media queries on the page. So we have written 2 set of CSS properties, and not only width, guys. Now let us say when it is in the smaller device, I want to see the background color as a red. Okay. Now if you come back here, reload the page. See here, this is how it is coming in the red color. When you go into the bigger device, yellow color. What is this, boss? We haven't written multiple pages. Same page is working differently. This is what we use for the media queries. So what I have defined here, this line number 42 is, we are defining a media query. Okay. And we are specifying what is the dimension value need to get satisfied so that I take these guy as a priority. Whenever the maximum width is only 350, automatically these guy will come. Now, if you see, when I go with the smaller device, if I say 340 pixel, okay, still it is under 350. But when I say 351, greater than 351, that guy is coming into the picture. But when I say 350, these guy will coming into the picture. So automatically your browser is enough capable of picking the corresponding CSS and applying to the elements based on the dimensions what you have, or based on the CSS properties what you have given. This is what we call it as media queries, guys. As simple as it is. So once you define a media query, you can add any number of classes. Say, for example, when it is a smaller device, I would like to have the header guy, say something called as background color, something called as green. So whatever the CSS properties you define here, when the maximum width is 350, automatically all those properties will be applied. Refresh your page, see this guy is this. Now when I go to the bigger device, it is again back to the same. So this is what we call it as media queries. Right now, I have handled for 350 pixel. Now, if you ask me a question, okay, boss, 350 is fine. When it is going into the tablet, let us say something called a 700 pixel. This is how the tablet is coming. I want to have a different color for this when it is a tablet. So how do? We need to define n number of media queries according to the device what you're giving. Now I say maximum width of 700 pixel. When it is 700 pixel, so I need to say MSG bar, something called as background, say something called as violet. Now if you save this, come back here and reload the page. This is how it is coming violet. Now when I go to the bigger device, yellow is coming. When I go to the smaller device, red is coming. So you could able to handle, I mean, simple example I have taken, like how the colors are getting changed. Like this, if you want to handle a web page to get rendered accordingly for multiple devices, You just simply apply this media queries for different actions. That's it, guys. This is how simple it is. Anyway, I have more properties to discuss. But before that, is everyone clear about the media queries and how do we apply this?
Yes, sir.
Now, on the top, you say that, okay, but for only maximum width you have given, what is the minimum width I have to give? You can even simply say AND operator and you specify, say something called as minimum width, say something called as 300 pixel, like this. You can specify multiple conditions here. What is the minimum, what is the max, or else if you say height also you want to go, and properties you can use. And one main thing is, whenever you are going to apply the media queries, you can even specify the screen type also. @media, something called as screen type. So what are the possible screen types we can actually specify? You can say something called as screen, which means any color device. I have already added these things in your notes, guys. But anyway, and I say something called as all, in the sense all color devices along with black and white device also. I say something called as handheld, which is equal to devices which comes on your hand, which is your mobile, etc. We say something called as projection, the projectors. We say TV, which is for televisions and all. Now, at the same time, there is even very important something called as print. You would have seen in like real-time example, guys. Whenever have you ever got a chance to take a printout of the Gmail content? Anyone did ask you guys that, okay, take a printout of Gmail, whatever the mail I have sent you? Ever got a chance? And have you ever got a chance to see the difference? The printout what you get out of a Gmail is not exactly the same what you see in your when you open a Gmail content. Some look and feel will be different, but if you take a printout, it will be something different. How come? You can even specify the look and feel changes when it goes to the print also. And you see here, for example, when I say Control P, I'm going with the print. If you see here, some purple color is coming as a background. You see the borders are all missing. Okay, fine. I would like to say @media. Okay, I say print .msg bar font hyphen size 30 pixel. I say dot header. Let me remove this for now. Screen type is, say something called as all. Header background color is green. Now if you come back and reload the page, do you see any green background or etc? I have given the green background and font size as 30 pixel. Do you see it is getting applied? No. Once you go with the Control P, do you see that 30 pixel is been applied and the green background is been applied? So
Yes, sir.
implies there are some cases when you actually go with the CSS properties, or sorry, whenever you see the web page content in a different way, when the people want to give a printout of it, you want to show in a different way for the printout, then you can make use of @media print. Implies whatever the properties what you give here, it will be only considered when the user is giving a print option for the current page. Am I clear? So this is how you can even control. That is what the Gmail also will do. You try to do it. I mean, if you you haven't ever seen that, then try to do something called take a printout. See the Gmail content. Now you take a printout and see how actually it is coming. So that will be completely different. So why so they have a different look and feel CSS property changes when it is coming to the print option. So like this, you can actually specify the device types also here. So right now I specified it as media print. At the same time, I say media, I say something called as media screen. What do you mean by this media screen? Any type of color device along with the maximum width equal to 700. Like this, you can specify the device type and you can specify the width and height. At the same time, you can even specify the orientation also. What do you mean by orientation? I say orientation which is something called as landscape, like this. So whenever the device width is 350 and the orientation is landscape, then only these guys are going to be considered. Otherwise, you can say portrait. So I mean, if you see YouTube, whenever you see a video, when it is vertical, you see the video as a smaller, at the bottom you see some more videos. But when you say, if you rotate the mobile, automatically the video will be in a bigger size. How come? They have already defined the media queries for both orientation, landscape, and portrait. So like this, you can handle lot of other look and feel changes according to the device dimensions and the device positions. This is what we call it as media queries. So any questions up to this, guys? Anyone?
Sir, can we give range?
What do you mean by range here?
So for from minimum 350 to maximum of 400 pixel.
Okay. Yeah, we can give it right now. I can say end, something called as min max width I have given. Now I say minimum hyphen width, something called as minimum is 250 pixel. Like this you can give, right? So you cannot say that at a range, you just need to specify both max and min. Now you specify whatever the values you want to give. In the same way, height also you can give.
So these are the ranges, right, sir? So
Yes.
from 250
Indirectly,
to
those
350.
are ranges. Yes.
Okay.
So between 250 to 350 and the orientation is landscape, automatically all these properties will be coming into the picture.
Yes, sir.
Sir?
Got it.
Yes, go ahead, ma'am.
Sir, is there any case that media query does not work?
There is no case. I mean, that's a good question, actually. The case it doesn't work is if the web page doesn't support the HTML5 features. If you go with the IE6, IE7, then it is going to be failed because it doesn't support the CSS3 features. Not only the CSS3, like HTML5 local storage, session storage. I mean, all the HTML5 features, CSS3 features, it doesn't work if the browser is not supporting. That's it.
So then why didn't Amazon, Flipkart didn't apply responsive page?
Amazon and Flipkart guy, they have dedicatedly said that if you see here, something like developer.mozilla, these guys working in a responsive way. But when you go to the Amazon and Flipkart, yeah, just give me a second, guys. Okay, sorry, Sonali. So as I said, you right, Amazon and Flipkart guys, at one time, they have delivered saying that they have actually put in news saying that we are not supporting the responsiveness. If you really want to make use of the web page in a smaller device, go with an app. Either it is tablet or mobile. We have already delivered the app. You can just make use of it. That is the reason they do this. I mean, they don't support it.
Sir, I thought there are lots of images and content are coming, and these things are difficult to manage.
Yeah, that might be the one of the reason. That might be the reason, but we are not sure on that. Yeah.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Yeah. Next.
Sir, in a single web page, there are many containers. So how to handle that?
That is what our challenging part being a developer. That's a very good question. Right now, what I'm doing is for MSG bar, for the header, just for only 3 schemes I am doing. What if 10 devices need to be supported? Under your single page, hell lot of containers are there. How do we do that? That is what we have to do. That is the reason people go with the dependency of third-party CSS3 or third-party media query APIs. Example, Bootstrap. The reason why people go with the Bootstrap, Angular material, React material, why the reason people go for? Because they already provide some predefined components which already taken care of this media queries. You use them, they automatically take care of the response. Anyway, we'll talk about those things. But for now, if you ask me a question, n number of containers, you as a developer need to write the CSS for all the containers for all the devices. Am I clear for us?
Sir, but it's not possible to add a single class in media query.
Why it is not possible for us? Here, when I say single media query, are we left over with single class or multiple class? You can add any number of classes under the single media query, right? Why it is not impossible? Why it is impossible?
No, sir, it's too much. If it is
That
tablet
is
or
why
a TV screen.
we cannot say that it is impossible. Yes, it is lot of manual work, but that is what we do. You know, before the bootstrap part, we used to do the same. We used to say that, and one main advantage is, are you changing the CSS look and feel for all the content what you have on the page? Only the one which is breaking, right? Now, if you see here, my web page, I'm only handling the MSG container, not the header, not the footer part, etc. So you only need to apply the look and feel changes for the container where there is having an issue, not for all the containers. We are not saying that you need to take all the classes. Again, you need to rewrite for all the devices. No, only for the containers which it is needed, you need to add it.
Okay, sir.
Got it? Okay, so we'll do one thing, guys. We'll pause for today. Tomorrow, again, I will show you, for example, as Faraz was asking a question, what if like under the minimum width of 350 pixel, we are writing some 100 classes. Under the minimum width of 700 pixel, you're writing some 100 classes. How do we handle those? So there is a better way by linking the external sheet using the media attribute for a link tag. I will talk about that tomorrow. I'm going to continue with that. Okay. So let's sign off for today, guys. We'll meet again back on tomorrow. Have a good day and have a good
Hello,
night.
sir.
Good night, sir.
Hello, sir.